Since the recession of 2008, a lot of people have tried to ask tough questions when it comes to Wall Street, why top firms, for example, seem able to write in many ways their own rules, and why nobody seems to be able to really regulate them, and why next to nobody has really gone to jail for some of the excesses that nearly crippled the economy. But rarely do you take a look at Wall Street on the individual level, to take a look at its culture, and a culture that can allow someone with very limited skills or education for that matter and background in finance to become a real high roller, substituting sometimes social skills along with a lot of money here and a lot of partying for business skills, and also can lead that same person to the top of the mountain or a penthouse in Manhattan only to fall all the way back to addiction and even having to move back in with their parents. Well, that is the really fascinating story of former hedge fund trader Turney Duff, and he tells us this story in his new book, The Buy Side. He's going to have to join us from Manhattan. Turney, thanks for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having me.
And you articulate in your book that, if nothing else, you were self-aware. You knew right in the beginning from some of the folks here that your uncle helped set you up with in the interviews that these guys, they went to school for this, they lived and breathed this stuff, you were out of your depth, but you quickly realized in happy hours that was your platform, and that's as almost part of this business as it is, you know, figuring out what's the hot stock and what to move, right?
100%, yes. You know, when the office lights went out and the city lights came on, that's sort of like when I felt I could move and shake, and you know, I had a chance. And during the day, I was out connected, out degreed, and out experienced. And I knew I couldn't compete on that level. And so I ended up sort of developing this awareness that, you know, the real money could be made also at night. And you know, there's also a debate between IQ and EQ. And you know, who knows where I fall in the IQ level, but the EQ level, I think, is where I really sort of found my niche.
We'll talk about it from that perspective of what it's like to be a hedge fund trader, and as the very title suggests, explain for those that aren't in finance the buy side and the sell side, and how that world really works when it comes to recruiting here, that person on a personal level as much on a financial one.
Well, I mean, just the easy answer for the difference is the buy side is the client. So whether it's a hedge fund or a mutual fund, anyone who is managing money and is dictating, you know, the order flow, the buy and sell orders, that is the buy side. And everyone on the sell side wants to court and wants the orders of people on the buy side. But as a hedge fund trader, it was my responsibility to work with the PM and the analysts on how to buy a particular stock, when to buy a particular stock, and sort of work as, you know, as one on how to build a portfolio and risk management. And you know, there's all different levels of a buy-side trader. And one sort of way that I also sort of got ahead was this innate ability to know how to make money, and to use the people around me in terms of knowing their strengths and their weaknesses and playing bets on that.
It wasn't just balance sheets that you and a lot of the other traders were working off of. There were enticements made like, hey, we got you out a private jet out to Vegas for a weekend, or we're going to take you down to the Masters and all expenses paid. Talk about how big a part that is, and it's not just you guys living it up, but how that shapes portfolios and sometimes investors none the wiser.
You know, it's part of the business. Wining and dining is, you know, 100% part of the business. And you know, there were some years where I had $30 to $50 million in commissions to pay out to the street. And obviously, the more order flow that I had and gave out, the better information I was getting. People were making me their first call, and people wanted to befriend me. And you know, they wanted to take me on these trips or take me to dinner or any concert that I wanted, because they wanted more commission dollars. And it's not just Wall Street, because I believe this sort of thing happens in any sales business, but Wall Street is just on a much, much bigger stage. But it was part of the business of just, I was paying bills and people wanted me to pay their bills.
You know, Turney, you've seen guys go through this yourself, and probably you fit the description. Young junior analyst comes in here trying to learn the ropes. And because of the way the commissions are drawn and because of the way bonuses are drawn, it's short term. And the old school guys, when they talk about long term, after a while they wave the hand. I'm like, yeah, right. We're working on this quarter, this year. We're not looking long term, and that's where the risk factors in. But it also turns whatever modesty some folks can come in to some 20-something-year-old thinking is the quote-unquote master of the universe.
Right.
And that manifests itself not just in the guy being a pain in the you-know-what to deal with, but in how they do their business here and how the street is kind of driven on the next opening bell, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. And I think one of the exciting things that I found after writing the book is I came from a small town in Maine. I grew up in a house that was heated by a wood stove, and I show up in '94, know nothing. And in the book, you actually get to see the transformation of how I ended up being the guy, 33 years old, living in a 3,000 square foot apartment in Tribeca, having a $2 million year, just found the girl of my dreams, out every night, can go to any restaurant I want to, and you actually get to see how I sort of became this stereotypical Wall Street guy that America loves to hate. And it's not that all of Wall Street, as you very well know, is like this. And you just, it's like I not only drank the Kool-Aid, but I mixed it and I poured it in shot glasses. And, it was hard not to believe everything people were telling me.
There's a line in the book here. I know you get to ask this all the time, but to me what stood out wasn't that you said it. It's what you guys did after, which was you come up a line on a hot club in the city, and you say, I don't wait on lines, I snort them, and you walk right in. But the fact is, not just that you had the you-know-what to say that, but that you guys made T-shirts of it. I think to me that is the exclamation point here that, if nobody's going to call us on this and we get rewarded for this, we're going to keep on doing it. And in fact, we'll celebrate it.
I mean, yes, it was put in the book. I said it trying to be funny, but I put it in the book just to show sort of how clueless I really was and aloof, and how I just thought, oh, I'm so funny, and believing that money actually equated to self-worth and net worth. And yeah, it's terrible, but there's a reason I put it in the book, is because I wanted everyone to see me at my worst. And, the purpose is to show the reader some of the pitfalls that people can fall into.
And you're very upfront about it. And in fact, you talk about the addictions that took over and really not only crushed your career, but in your personal life. In a perverse way, from a timing standpoint, we saw what happened at your last employer, and we've all seen the perp walks and everything else from some of the leading guys at Galleon. Talk about that. Obviously, insider trading being the root of the problem. How prevalent was it there? And do people in the industry say, "Hey, that could have been us. This is just the reality of the way the business works"?
I'm sure a lot of people are breathing a little sigh of relief. But while I was there, we went from 700 million to 5 billion. So those 2 years, I was witnessing Raj Rajaratnam becoming a master of the universe. And it sometimes very often seemed that his information was too good. But as a 29-year-old with his calculator next to his desk, taking 50 grand times, up 80% every year, it was intoxicating. It was sort of the way of the world. Back then, 10 years ago, there weren't really consequences as far as insider trading. We weren't thinking about Boesky. We weren't thinking about Milken. We were thinking that insider trading was the equivalent to jaywalking.
And of the consequences, you were the guy everybody wanted to party with. You were the guy that everyone wanted to, after closing bell, be with. It obviously took its toll, as you write about in detail in your book, that it led to addiction. You tried to control it, you tried to manage it, but like so many addictions, it took over. How steep was that descent, and how bad did it get?
It got really bad. And I believe I was an addict and alcoholic way before Wall Street. I've always had this sort of feeling of discontent. You know, if 15 kids showed up to my fifth grade birthday party, I wanted to know why 20 didn't. So it was always sort of this underlying feeling of discontent. But it got really bad. You know, it got to the point where I was isolating. I was by myself. I was with my cocaine. I was with my alcohol, and I didn't want anyone around me. But on the surface, I wanted to know everyone, and it was this dichotomy that it was just impossible to balance. And it got so bad the first time around, before I went to my first rehab, that I'd called in sick so many times. You know, I had the bird flu, I had SARS virus, I had pink eye, I had a flood in my apartment, I had a friend who committed suicide in Ohio. Like, you know, they were just excuses. And so I ended up faking a mugging. I was outside of my office at 6 in the morning, and if I showed up for work, I was going to get fired, and if I didn't show up for work, I was going to get fired. So I repeatedly threw myself and slammed my body into this puddle 7 to 8 times and walked in trying to let them think that I'd been mugged. And, you know, shortly thereafter, I was on a plane to my first rehab.
The book, again, it is The Buy Side, and he is Turney Duff. Turney, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, have a great day.
All right, everybody, RFL is going to be back right after this quick break, so please stay with us.